Hi everyone. Recently, while at an event, I heard about a new operating system, or at least an operating system I had not heard about, which might be useful for resurrecting really terrible laptops. So I've got this HP Mini 100E, which is an Atom N455 1.66 gigahertz machine with only 1 gigs of RAM. Really generally quite awful. But it still switches on, the battery lasts a good 4 hours, which is quite amazing. So it's a bit of a shame to, kind of throw it away, or, find no particular good use for it. It just about browses the internet with Windows 7 and no antivirus on it. So if you then load it up with antivirus and other software, it will probably become pretty much unusable. So I heard about this operating system called, sorry about the glare on the screen, Neverware. And my aim here is to find out the difference between Neverware, which looks like it's ChromeOS based, and ChromeOS itself. So I'll basically install both and see what each one offers and how well each one works, and we'll go from there. So Neverware is not free, so if you're an enterprise or want to do some kind of central management, you have to pay an annual fee per device. But they do, luckily, a free version, which I will download and give it a go. So let's click that button now. So the download itself looks like it's only 42 megabytes, but that's just for the USB maker. I will also right now plug in this 8 gig USB drive into my machine, ready to write to. And let's run this CloudReady USB maker. And this is the point where I probably should set up some sort of screen recording thing so you're not watching it second-hand through my mobile phone. So, welcome to the CloudReady USB creation tool. An 8 gig or 16 gig USB stick is required, and 20 minutes to create the installer. So I've now got an 8 gig stick plugged in. Let's see what happens. 64-bit, yes, definitely. This machine's running a 64-bit version of Windows 7, so 64-bit of CloudReady Neverware should also be fine. SanDisk, interesting. SanDisk devices are not recommended. So that's fine. Oh, it's not a SanDisk one. I've no idea what brand it is. Apparently generic flash. And it looks like it is, yes, it's definitely downloading. Right, so we're at 90% of the download. We'll see what happens and how the USB writing section looks. Extracting the compressed image. This machine has an SSD and is quite fast, so it shouldn't take too long to do that. It's taking such a long time, it makes me wonder if it's already just writing it straight to the USB stick. Interested to find out. So no, yes, it is. It is writing it straight to the USB stick, so this stage actually will take longer than I expect. Oh no, I see. It did the extracting, then moved on to a different stage. So I am interested in how large that file there is, so the one that it downloaded from Google, from Neverware. So downloads folder. So downloaded an 836 megabyte. In fact, it looks like a zip file with a bin in it, and the .bin. Wow, it's 6.26 gigabytes. So it gets very well compressed there. Right, there we go. That's now claims that it's finished. So I'm not going to bother reading the install guide because I can't be bothered. Let's finish it and eject the USB stick and go over to the HP thing and see what we can do. See what works or doesn't work. So let's put that USB thing into the USB socket. And let's restart it. There's no point shutting it down gracefully because I'm just going to be wiping it anyway. So let's turn that on. I was right, F9 for boot device, and let's use generic flash. Right, so it looks like it's gone nowhere, probably in about 20-25 minutes. I've remade, because this memory stick is going to be particularly rubbish, I've remade the stick and also the CloudReady I can't remember the name now. Neverware software actually does support the HP Mini 100E, so I've remade the image this time on one that they claim that you shouldn't use, a SanDisk, but 16 gig SanDisk, and we'll see whether it works this time. I do remember at some point in the past having trouble with this memory stick with Ubuntu and Debian, so let's just hope that it's a problem with the memory stick and I have better luck now. Let's see, here goes. So press escape to get the startup menu, which takes a while on this, and F9 for boot devices. Oh, okay, it's not a SanDisk, it's a Kingston, so it shouldn't be a problem at all. Let's see. So far it's done the same as what the other memory stick did, which is give a cursor for a couple of seconds and then a black screen. And yeah, aha, that is definitely better than what the other memory stick did. So let's see what happens. So there we go, we've got some kind of wizard. We're on version 63.3.41 and I can enable debugging features, change the keyboard, which I'll definitely have to do because it's a UK keyboard, so let's click on that. And it's taking a very long time to build the menu. There we go. That's taking again another long time to bring up the drop down list, so this isn't looking too good for the speed of the machine once it's actually up and running. And the keyboard is United Kingdom. Oh, except it looks like the only supported options. Oh no, it does have UK. I thought it was going to be US and just US Dvorak, but that's looking good. So okay on that. I don't need debugging features, so let's go. So select a wireless network. I'm going to go for EduRoam. And sign in, although I'd rather actually just install it, so I'm not totally sure how you get to the installing options. Don't really want to run off of a memory stick all the time. So we are at basically what looks like a Chromebook, but as I say, I want to actually install it. I don't really want it off of a memory stick, so this is where I probably should have read the documentation. Also seems to have ignored my keyboard selection, has gone back to US. Aha, install CloudReady, that's the kind of thing I was looking for. So CloudReady installer. Erase hard disk, that's fine. It only has a blank version of Windows 7 on there. So I guess that's going to take a while. I will be back with you when it's finished. Right, so the machine seems like it switched itself off, which the instruction said it would do once it had finished installing. So I'm going to take out the memory stick which I installed from, and we'll switch it on and see how it goes. Still fairly slow to start up, so let's hope that if I reboot it will be quicker the next time. We'll find out. Mouse is rather juddery and it still takes quite a while to bring up the list of countries. There we go, sign into your Chromebook. I'd say this seems slower to start up than even Windows 7 did. So let's see whether it can cope with a speed test. Trouble is the resolution's so tiny on this machine that everything falls off the screen. So let's resize it. Yeah, I'm almost certain this is slower and a worse experience than Windows 7 on 1 gig of RAM with Chrome installed. Although the advantage of this Chrome OS is that it's unlikely to get infected, whereas Windows 7, if you put the antivirus on it, would then be a very different beast speed-wise. So this doesn't particularly need antivirus. Because the idea of Chromebooks is they're stateless, you can really wipe them, just sign in, everything should get pulled down from the cloud each time. But I'd say, from just how juddery that's being, and the way that the ping is 300 milliseconds, it's really not coping very well. Let's try opening up another tab. Let's close that one because it's just not functioning properly. Let's try something, say, like the Guardian website. So it's very juddery at scrolling up and down. I'm struggling to kind of work out where I am on the page and how far I've moved. If I move the mouse, doesn't really follow the mouse each time I scroll. So once it's finished loading, it's not so bad, still not great, and I'm pretty sure Windows 7 was a better experience, but I'll have to test that once I'm done with Chrome OS as well. So let's try YouTube as well. So, easy one to search for, slow-mo guys. So I'm trying to scroll down the page, it took quite a while there, although now it's alright. Paintball shotgun, we'll give that one a go. So in windowed mode it's alright. If I make it full screen, let's see how well it copes.
Hello, I'm Gav. Welcome to the Super Slow Show. There's some steps to my right. You can see a
Pretty good. It's in very low quality though. It's picked something. Yeah, it's only picked 480, so let's try. Certainly not going to be able to go to say 1080 or the 4K video, but let's try the 720. Ooh, very juddery and buffering. That's definitely this hardware or the OS, because other machines that I've got around here can absolutely stream 4K even over the Wi-Fi. So yeah, that's an interesting experiment. The other one I want to try will be BBC iPlayer. Although that asks you to sign in these days, so that test is a little bit tedious to do, so I won't bother doing that. But there we go, it's usable. I wouldn't say it's enjoyable, to the point where actually I think Windows 7 works better. After I've done, I'll shut this down now, I'll go through the process of installing Chrome OS rather than the Neverware OS, see whether that's any better, any different, any more difficult to install or whatever, and then after that I will put the exact same version of Windows back on it and the same configuration it was in when I first started, and compare how usable that is and whether the YouTube videos play any better, and whether the Guardian website is smoother scrolling and everything, and we'll go from there. So I'll see you in a few minutes. Right, so here goes. That's going to put the memory stick back into the main laptop and cancel all these boxes about non-partitioned memory sticks, because it's not. And let's see what I can do about getting Chrome OS, just plain vanilla Chrome OS, which I expect is nowhere near as easy to download and image onto a memory stick than Neverware. I keep forgetting their name. So, how do we get it? For everyone, discussion group, report bugs. Where is the download? Building it for everyone. Maybe the FAQ tells me where I can get it. Where can I download? So what's the difference? Here we go. So it's already immediately confusing for most people. So Chrome or Chromium OS is the open source project used primarily by developers with code that is available to everyone to check out. And then you've got Google Chrome OS, which is the product for OEMs, I presume like Dell and HP, to ship for general consumer use. So what we really want will be the Google Chrome OS. So where can I download Google Chrome OS? And they say it's not a conventional operating system that you can download on a disk. As a consumer, the way you'll get Chrome is by buying a Chromebook that has Chrome OS installed by the OEM, so Dell or HP. It's being developed to run on new machines. Chromebooks are for sale. Okay, so we can't use the kind of pre-packaged version, which is a bit annoying. So where can I download Chromium OS? If you are the kind of developer that likes to build open source operating systems, blah blah blah, yes please. A number of sites have also posted pre-built binaries, so there's no chance that I'm going to compile my own Chromium OS. So I now need to find a pre-built binary of Chromium OS. So I've got, none that you really trust. You're just Googling here and it's the first result, so it's probably, or could be, total junk. Get a daily build, a weekly build, a special build. They could all be, again, total junk. So let's go for the daily. I order it by last modified. And go for the 64-bit one, most recent, 64-bit on March the 29th. So that's yesterday, or maybe 2 days ago. And we'll download that. So that is 481 megs of a 7-zip file. And once it's downloaded, I'll extract it and come back to you. Right, so I've extracted the file I downloaded. I'm now going to use Rufus to write the memory stick. ISO file from the downloads folder, except I can't see it. That one there. Go. We'll come back once that's finished. Okay, I now have this memory stick built with supposedly a nightly build of Chromium OS, and let's see whether we can get that installed. Whoops, still running the old Neverware. And boot from the Kingston drive. It's already much slower to even come up with a splash screen, so I'm pretty sure the Neverware thing, or CloudReady, had already come up with a white CloudReady screen. And this is almost to the stage where I'm not even sure that it's booting. I'd say that that isn't booting, so none of the keys that I pressed do anything useful. Unplug that. Hasn't errored, so I guess it's failed to start up. So I mean, there's a good reason not to use Chromium OS, because just doesn't seem like it's ready for the consumer unless you buy it on a actual pre-built book like a standard Chromebook. So I will now re-image this back to Windows 7, and we will compare how Neverware, or CloudReady, depending what they're calling it. It looks like they use a cross between different names, and Windows 7 go, and I expect, if I'm recalling correctly, the Windows 7 will be a better experience. So you've just got to trade off the potential to install other random software and therefore also maybe malware versus the slowness of Neverware. But yeah, it's an interesting alternative. I'll be back with you once I've got Windows 7 back on this. Right, so that's finished installing or imaging Windows 7 onto this machine. Now let's compare it to Neverware or CloudReady OS. So there we go, booted up. I'm pretty sure, although hopefully when I do this video I'll have them side by side, I'm pretty sure that started up quicker than CloudReady OS or whatever the name is, Neverware. So let's load Chrome. Chrome will load slower because it's as part of ChromeOS. Chrome, I guess, loads, but I mean still that's fairly quick. So the first test first off I need Wi-Fi. So the first test I did was speedtest.net. It's still quite laggy. I feel like I've managed to click on the elements on the screen slightly quicker in Windows than I had on Chrome. But yes, that's still quite unenjoyable to use. And as with most websites, it's actually the adverts that are probably slowing it down. Yeah, it's come back with a higher ping, so 600 or nearly 700 milliseconds. And I think the previous OS only got up to about 5 megabits per second, so it'd be interesting to see what Windows manages. Yeah, so similar. So I'm actually quite surprised that Windows is as bad as this. So let's do the next thing, which was I opened another tab and then went to the Guardian website. And so I do remember demonstrating that scrolling up and down the page was quite painful, so let's scroll up and down the page and see how that compares to Chromium OS, or Neverready, or whatever that OS is called. And I don't feel quite so jarred. It's not smooth scrolling, but it is following the mouse slightly better than I recall it doing in the last test. So scrolling up and down, I don't feel like I'm losing my place, whereas I definitely was in the other OS. So I'll just wait for it to finish loading all the adverts, and we'll see how it scrolls, and then I'll try the YouTube test. So there you go, I think it's finished. So scrolling up and down, yeah, usable, and I'd say from what I remember this feels more usable than the other OS. So now let's try YouTube. And I was searching for slow-mo guys. And I'd scrolled down to one about paintball shotguns. Which I now can't find. That's the one.
I've got my earplugs. Alright. 3, 2, 1, go!
So that's very good in windowed mode, as it was in Neverware. And if I turn it full screen, for a start it doesn't go full screen properly. Oh no, there we go, it just took a while. And that looks okay, but again I think that's chosen the 420 quality stream. So if I now change that to the 720, well, I think, sorry, 480. Whoops. So change that to 720, which is about probably the lowest enjoyable stream to watch, and we'll see. And it's probably on a par with the Neverware OS. It's not buffering as much as Neverware. Oh, I haven't said that, it did just then, but not buffering for as long each time, and the frame rate is slightly smoother, I'd say, but still interesting that actually it is very similar to the Neverware. And considering the extra security improvements of Neverware, or where you shouldn't be able to infect it, or at least it will be less of a target to be infected, it makes it a very compelling alternative operating system. So I might go back to it, and if I find anything else interesting about Neverware, I'll add it to the end of this video, or look in the description of this video, and it might give you some links to some other videos that I might have made about Neverware. If this video has been interesting to you, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe, because YouTube seems to be counting the popularity of, or not even the popularity of YouTube channels, but whether you're even allowed to make money out of the advertising that's shown based on the number of subscribers. So even though I might have several tens of thousands of views in a month, if I have a low number of subscribers, I'm much more likely to be kicked off of their advertiser program. So if you could subscribe, don't need notifications to be switched on, but having you subscribed and adding to the subscriber count would be super useful. So thank you very much, hope you enjoyed the video. Right, something that's worthy of note, especially if you want to watch, say, or listen to BBC iPlayer based radio stations, or local radio stations, or possibly even streamed MP3s. Flash is not installed by default, but then a lot of websites are moving away from Flash, so that's not such a problem anyway. But where the iPlayer should be using, I think it's called Dash for the streaming protocol, and other local radio stations are using just streamed MP3s or HLS, which is HTTP live streaming. That doesn't seem to be supported by default, so here at the BBC iPlayer it just says you need Flash, even though it shouldn't really need Flash. It should be using kind of native HTML5 type streaming. And if I do Radio Jackie, which definitely uses HLS streaming, it also says HLS is not supported, tries to send you onto the Flash version. Flash also isn't there because there's no Flash by default, and then it tries to use just plain HTML5. That downloads the audio, but so there's data streaming over the Wi-Fi at this point, but doesn't play any audio. So there is, in the settings of CloudReady OS, or I can never remember the name of this release, whatever it is, media plugins. So it may be worth, by default, or whenever if you ever do use this OS, clicking the install on Flash and accepting the license agreement, which falls off the bottom of my screen, but and also doing the same for the proprietary media components, which I think must be proprietary to Google Chrome OS. Reading this very quickly, so accept the license. And no, right, those are both installed, so you then do have to apparently restart, which is interesting, and for such an old machine the restart doesn't actually seem to take too long. If anything, it actually just takes longer to log in after you've entered the password. So let's see which media components it now supports. Fantastic. So it now does support HLS, just not out of the box. You have to click on the extensions to install it, and let's try Radio 1. Or any other BBC iPlayer based radio stations.
Yes! We are in!
What a horrible noise, but it does work. So if you are setting one of these up, it's a very good idea to select those two, well, certainly the proprietary media components, which will allow non-flash based, so HTML5 type media, and then if you think that flash will be used, it's probably also a good idea to install the flash component. But yeah, there you go, a useful tip if you do set one of these up. So just another quick aside to say that the time left on the battery, which I've now unplugged the machine, is varying between about 6 hours and 7 hours, which is better than Windows. Windows was only estimating about 4 hours, so yeah, you definitely get better battery life out of this OS.